So I've made over 50 YouTube videos now about acting, about the career, giving out career advice. And recently I realized that I've never actually shared my story about how I became an actor, how I started my career. And so that's what I want to do in this video. I want to share with you how I got started and then all the things that happened to get me to where I am today. So stick around and I will tell you that story. There might be some things that you're surprised by. What's up, my fellow actors? Welcome to the Acting Career Center, here to help you learn the skills you need to break into the film and television industry. My name is Kurt Yu. Thank you so much for spending some time here with me today. If this is your first time here, make sure to click that subscribe button to get more videos on acting, auditioning, and career advice every single week. Now, today's video, I'm not giving any direct advice. I'm more kind of telling a story about how I started my career, but hopefully this story will inspire you, and maybe some parts of the story will give you some ideas of how to approach your own acting career. Now, if you are looking for some specific advice, then I do encourage everybody to download my free 10-step audition preparation cheat sheet. It's kind of a study guide on how to audition. So if you haven't already, download that. If you have, then just sit back and relax and let me tell you the story about how I started my acting career. I think as you start to meet more people and meet more actors in the industry, you'll learn that everybody has their own unique story about how they got started. And I'm no different. I think my story is pretty unique, and I didn't start the way a lot of people did, because I'm not one of those people that watched a movie or a play when I was 5 years old and was mesmerized and wanted to be an actor ever since. I actually didn't do any acting when I was a kid, didn't do any acting in high school or in college. I actually went to college for computer science and engineering. That was my major, and that was my degree. And after I graduated, I was working in the corporate world as a software developer. I actually worked as a software developer for many years. So I had a whole nother life before I started my acting career. The way I got into acting was actually because I was working in the corporate world. I had a job this was in Cleveland, Ohio. So I grew up in Cleveland. I went to Michigan for college, and then I came back to Cleveland for my first job. And here's actually a photo of me in my cubicle trying to look cool as a software developer. This was back, I think, around maybe 2008 or something like that, which is roughly when I started taking acting classes. The way I got into it was that me and my best friend from high school, who was also working a corporate job in Cleveland, we would often meet up after work just looking for something fun to do after work. Sometimes we would go to a bar or a restaurant for a happy hour. I remember we had even attended a few Toastmasters meetings, if you know what Toastmasters is. I also signed up for jiu-jitsu classes for a period of time back then. And at one point, we happened to walk by this acting studio in Cleveland, Ohio. And this was in April of 2008. The acting studio was owned by Jessica Houde Morris, who was actually the teacher there, the head teacher there, and she also still owns and teaches at that school. If you are in Cleveland or near Cleveland, Ohio, I highly recommend you check out her acting classes. That's the Houde School of Acting, H-O-U-D-E, School of Acting in Cleveland, Ohio. I'll put a link to them down in the description below. I've actually interviewed Jessica Houde Morris here on this YouTube channel about the Meisner technique, which is an acting technique that they teach at that school. If you want to watch that interview, I'll put that down in the description below as well. But anyway, so me and my friend, we happened to find this acting school, and we went to a free class to audit, and it looked really fun. So we signed up for classes. And I remember when I signed up, I had zero expectations in terms of making a career change. In fact, there was not a single brain cell in my head that was thinking that I would pursue acting as a career. I signed up for those classes strictly because it looked like it would be something fun to do. And when I signed up, I was thinking, well, it was a month-to-month type of class. And I was thinking that I could take classes for a month, see how I liked it. If I didn't like it, I would just stop taking classes the next month. Or if I did like it, then I would just sign up for another month and then another month and just see how it goes. Well, when I signed up in 2008, I actually kept taking classes there for the next 8 years. So that's how much I enjoyed those classes. And for that first year or so, it was, again, strictly doing it for fun. I had no expectations of trying to get an agent or make money or any of those things. But the cool thing is that acting class, whether I knew it or not at the time, I was gaining so much experience and so much knowledge while I was in there, because it was that acting class that I made connections that was able to get me my first role in a short film and my first roles in student films. It was through that acting class that I got my first role in a play. It was through that class that I met my first headshot photographer and got my first professional headshot. And it was through that acting class that I ended up getting my first agent. The way I got that agent was because one of the students in the class was represented by an agent, and she introduced me to her agent, and that's how I got my first representation. That's also what I tell people is the best way to get an agent is through a referral, because that carries so much more weight than if you were to submit to an agent directly on your own. But anyway, so that acting class gave me so many opportunities before I even imagined getting the agent or making any money. And part of the reason why I never had the idea of potentially pursuing it as a career was because I was very naive to the industry before I started taking the classes. I thought, and I don't think I'm the only one that thought this way. I think plenty of other people do, especially people that don't really know about the acting industry at all. But I just assumed that everything that was made on TV was made in Hollywood. I just assumed everything that we saw on our TV screen, any small commercial or anything like that, I just assumed was made in Hollywood. I never even considered that local commercials for a local company, like a local car dealership, might be made locally. I never considered that, even though that makes perfect sense that that would happen. But it took me being in class to learn these things. The way I learned was that I saw other people in class, other students in the class who had agents who were auditioning for these types of things, and I would see them on TV, and that was amazing to me. So that's how I learned about those things, that local commercials would be made locally and they would hire local actors. So when I got my first agent in Cleveland, those are the types of things that I started auditioning for to begin with. Because Cleveland, Ohio is a very small market in terms of film and television production. There are 0 TV shows being made there, at least when I was there. And there might be 1 or 2 movies that come into town per year. So when I was there, 99% of the auditions that actors would get through their agents would be for local commercials or for industrial videos. And what industrial videos are videos that are used by companies for internal use. A great example of an industrial video is a training video. So if you've ever had a job at a company and you watched a training video on how to do your job, those actors in those training videos are acting in industrial videos. And I've done a ton of those when I was in Cleveland. So that's how I got started. That was my first agent, and those were the first types of things I started auditioning for. When I got my first agent in 2009, so this was about a year after I started taking acting classes, I was still working my full-time job. And in fact, I didn't quit my full-time job for a long time. From 2009 through 2014, so those 4.5 years or so, end of 2013, beginning of 2014. For those 4.5 years, I had an agent, but I was still working my full-time job as a software developer. And what I would do is if I got an audition, I would go on my lunch break to do that audition, and then I would come back to work. And then if I ever booked a job, then I would actually just take a day off of work and then do whatever acting job that I booked, whether it's a commercial or an industrial video or something like that, and then I would just come back to work the next day. And I did that for many years. I was working my full-time job, and then every once in a while I would have an audition, and then every once in a while I would book something. And it wasn't until 2014 that I decided that maybe I want to try to do a little bit more with acting. So here's what happened. At the end of 2013, I was just finishing up a 12-month contract for my software job. And come January of 2014, I had a decision to make. I could either take a new contract for my software job or I could take a break. And I elected to take a break at the time. My thought process was that I'm going to take 6 months off from my software job and try to focus a little bit more on acting to see where that takes me. And I thought that I could do this because I had saved up some money and I felt like I was in a financial position where I could take that risk and devote more time to my acting. And the reason why I say that is because when I was working full time, there were certain auditions that my agent would send me that I would have to turn down because I was working on a high priority project at work that I couldn't leave for. I couldn't take our lunch break to go to that audition, and I definitely couldn't take a day off, a full day off from work to go work an acting job when I had this high priority project at work. So there were certain times when I had to turn down auditions and turn down bookings. And this gave me an opportunity in the beginning of 2014 to push my software job aside for 6 months to see what I could do if I focused 100% on my acting career. My thought was that I was gonna take it 6 months at a time, and if things started going downhill, then I could always fall back on my software career and go back to that job. Well, that was 2014, now it's 2020, and in the past 6 years, I have not taken another software job since then. So I've been really lucky and really blessed to have been able to fully focus on my acting career this entire time. Sure, I've had side hustles and side gigs to bring in extra income, but besides that, I've been able to support myself primarily with my acting career. Now that's how I was able to start my career in Cleveland, Ohio, but as many of you know, I currently live in Atlanta, Georgia. So how did I end up here? Well, back in 2015, so about a year after I took my break from software and started focusing 100% on acting, in 2015 I met two people from Atlanta, two actors from Atlanta. Their names were Alan O'Reilly and Jenna Cannell. And meeting them really opened my eyes to Atlanta as a potential opportunity destination. Because remember when I said before that I was very naive to the industry and I didn't know that local things were made in Cleveland, Ohio. Well, even after taking acting classes from 2008 to 2015, I was still very naive to the acting industry outside of my local market. So I understood how things worked in Cleveland and in kind of the surrounding areas, but I still didn't really understand how the whole industry worked outside of our market. I still thought that movies and TV shows were all made in Hollywood, right? And it took meeting Alan and Jenna to tell me that no, there are other cities out there that have a lot of film and television production. And since they were from Atlanta, they really opened my eyes to what was going on in Atlanta. So when they told me about that, I started researching it. And that was when I really started considering moving down to Atlanta. And it didn't take long after that, only a few months later in 2016, was when I decided to make the move and come down here to Atlanta. The reason I made the move was because when I was in Cleveland, Ohio, yeah, I wanted to audition for movies and television shows. I wanted to work on movies and television shows. Those opportunities just didn't exist there. The video that I just made last week was about what's the best city to pursue an acting career. And where you live does matter because certain cities have more film and television production than others. And Atlanta happens to be one of those cities, and Cleveland doesn't happen to be one of those cities. So when I was in Cleveland, I wanted to audition for movies and shows, but there was just not that opportunity. I might get one audition for a movie per year, if that, sometimes 0 auditions for movies, and definitely no auditions for TV shows the entire time that I was there. Once I moved to Atlanta, a much bigger production market, a lot of movies and shows are made here, I started getting auditions for movies and shows every week, often multiple times a week. So instead of one audition for a movie per year, it was an audition every week for a movie. So it was such a drastic change from what I was used to. This move to Atlanta was that next step that my career needed. If you look at my IMDb profile, you'll see that all of the movies and television shows that I've worked on, they've all been from 2016 onwards. Everything before that, most of it was just short films and projects that I worked on with my friends. So this move to Atlanta was a huge change for my career. And one thing that I want to mention is that this entire time, since 2008, I never stopped taking acting classes. From that first day forward, I always continued to take classes. I didn't stop when I got my agent. I didn't stop when I booked my first job. I didn't stop when I got my first movie or my first television show. I continued to take acting classes all the way through. And that's because I really believe in this. I really believe that actors need to continue their training throughout their careers because there's always something new to learn. There's always something to improve. And I feel like that is a huge reason for the successes that I've had. And the reason I still take acting classes is that I know that I still have so much more room to grow in my career. I'm nowhere near what I think my potential can be. For example, I just had my first lead role in a feature film that came out this month, so I have so much more to look forward to in my career, and that's why I continue to train. When I moved to Atlanta, the first thing that I did was I signed up for more acting classes in Atlanta, so I really do believe in that. When I start to look back on my career as a software developer, when I was sitting in a cubicle and staring at a computer screen, it feels like an entire lifetime ago now. I would not trade this for the world. I've had so many great experiences up until now, and I look forward to what the future has to offer. And I know so many of you that are watching this, that follow my YouTube channel, are trying to build your own acting careers, and that is the whole goal of this Acting Career Center YouTube channel, is to help you with that, is to help you get to where I am and hopefully well beyond where I am in my career. So that is it for this video. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up, and if you have any questions for me, remember to leave them down in the comments below. Until next time, keep practicing, keep learning, and I hope to see you on set one day.